Episode 17, more money.
There it is.
No. And there he is. Wow, what a powerful show we just came off with Mr. Corey, man. With
Oh, yeah.
superhero mindset.
Loved that. Corey Charles, a great guest. I actually feel like a superhero every day. I mean, there probably isn't many days where I don't feel like a superhero, some form or fashion. And I know I'm your hero. So,
You know, that's yeah. And
I think I'm witnessing something very, very special right now.
And if you're wondering who that was, who just asked, it's actually our guest for today's show. And like all of our guests, he is extremely special and important and around the same age as Roy. That's all I'm going to say.
oh,
But-
wow.
but,
Yeah, there
you
he
know,
goes.
Actually, I'm older than Roy. So
Please don't say that. Don't want to say that on this. But Roy, why don't you introduce our guest?
Yeah, man. So, hey, everybody, we have Julian Sato with us today. He is I guess you're the CEO of Pivot to Change, right? And
the owner.
The owner, there you go. The owner of Pivot to Change, a sales and leadership expert in the marketplace. But, we have him on the show today specifically because of the work he's doing in the Gen Z population. And, we want to kind of get his viewpoints on how the Gen Z population is working in today's workplace and what he's seeing, what his, day-to-day looks like for interaction with these people who fall into this category. And Julian, if you wouldn't mind, man, just give us a little bit about yourself and then we'll get going.
Well, yeah. So, I do coaching, a lot of coaching, but also do a lot of sales development and leadership development. But what's happening is Gen Z is infiltrating, in a nice way, the workforce. And that is impacting the way businesses operate because they don't communicate the way I used to communicate. Maybe, I don't know about Joel, but the way you and I used to communicate, we got a job because we wanted to work at a company and work our way up or make the money and then buy a house and do the things that were kind of infused in our brains since childhood. We saw that as the way to have a survival mechanism in our life that we can pass on through generations. But what you're seeing is the Gen Z is coming to the workplace with a whole different mindset, and they actually are restless and bored with the way that businesses are operating, because their brains move a lot different than the way you and I, especially in learning and development. They don't need the same type of training, say, companies put together. They'll put together a 2-week training program to get people started and ramped up. They can get it done in 30 minutes. They can figure out a system like this. They don't need all the, hi guys, today I'm so-and-so, today we're going to talk. They're past all that. They just want to play the video game, and then if they don't like it, they reset and move to the next one. That's the mindset they have. And I think it's infiltrating the business to the point where they know they can outperform, and there's another set of Gen Z out there that knows they can outperform and are doing so. And I think they're going to shake the market up in every industry. I'm probably one of the few, Troy, that's been in mortgage, but I've been in 5 other industries as well. And I'm still kind of quasi in mortgage, but for the most part, I'm in other industries. And I'm telling you, they're shaking up the industries like crazy. And we're all going to see a big change coming up. I think in the next 5 years, you're going to see like a major shift in every industry.
Yeah, no, we completely agree. I mean, I think I've mentioned this to you before, but this is the kind of a place where that perspective is weighed in on heavily. Joel and I both own More Lending and the More Companies grouping, but I'm Gen X and he's Gen Z. And so our opinions on things are vastly different. Our viewpoint on the way we do things completely sometimes opposite. And we have to kind of talk to ourselves into the right space. And sometimes we just have to yell at ourselves into the right space. But it kind of works out for us. We sit across from each other. Like his office is over there, my office is over here. There's a hallway that kind of separates us and a little break room. And sometimes we just scream across through the doors and kind of get to the right place. Kind of like this. But, it works for us, and it actually helps us to get to where we need to be. But we're very, very, we're very, very fortunate to be able to have his perspective. Majority of the company falls into his perspective group, right? So the 3 or 4 LOs that work here are all Gen Z or late stage millennial. We only have one other person in this office location that falls outside of that category. And I think we see him once every like 5 months, and he's actually a boomer. So that somebody we barely ever see works from home. And our other locations are also in that same category. They're late stage millennials or Gen Zers. And so, we get a lot of perspective from that grouping on a regular basis. And that being said, what are you seeing from like leadership at these companies on how they are adapting to, having to deal with something that they may not know how to deal with? And I say that because not everybody has kids. So it's one thing when you have kids and you're experiencing something, but it's another thing to not have any kids and have to experience that same changeover in dynamic, the atmosphere for, your employees.
Right. The difference is I work with I have NDAs with them because of their own desire. And I'm totally fine with that. But 3 Gen Z companies, one's valued at 38 million, and they're actually in Florida. But the other 2, they're 23, 24 years old. These guys don't look at leadership the way you and I saw leadership. Leadership was the authoritative figure. The ones that knew, had the answers, were the ones that would say, hey, I'm strong enough to make sure we get this business done. They don't do that. They come up with a concept, and then they get on the floor with the group, and they look eye level with everyone and say, hey, what do you guys think? What can you bring to the table? What comes to mind? They're very open to testing things out versus having a secure pathway to getting something done. And they're open to making mistakes. They put money into trying versus money into planning it out to the perfection before it's implemented. That is a huge difference between the way our industry, we've done it, because we were so concerned about how our department looked that we would spend time making sure that all our I's are dotted and everything's crossed perfectly. They don't do that. They literally throw it to the wall with the team running to catch whatever they can catch and then say, hey, this worked. And I find that refreshing because they don't care about a status quo. They don't care about a process. They don't have a process. They look for the fastest way possible. And I'm going to use a good example as this. CRMs and sales. They don't sell the way we used to sell. They don't take time to develop a product and then go out and try to find clients. They use the employees as their product, and then people trust that employee, and then they buy the product. It's a completely shift in the way they market. So like I've told people in the mortgage industry, if you're in Florida, you should be talking about Florida, talking about the property out there. You just told me about your house value, talking about that value and how the market is growing and opportunities that are there for business. And then what happens is, oh, and by the way, I do mortgage, but it's not like, hi, I'm a mortgage person or I'm a loan officer. It's you focus on the state or you focus on your passion, and then people see you and they feel connected to you. And then because of that, they want to buy from you. That is the flip in the business that I see this taking hold, because I have one guy, not the receptionist, but his assistant, she has her own channel and she talks about how to save money, but she works for a currency exchange company that is booming. And people use the currency exchange company because of her followers on her saving money channel on buying food go to the company because of that. So she draws people to the business out of something that has nothing to do with the business. And I think that's just something that I think a loan officer should think about as well.
Interesting. What do you thought?
Very cool. I mean, I gotta agree with you with a lot of the things that you were saying in terms of running it, of sticking to the wall and running with it. Roy knows that's my go-to. Roy knows that's me, and I'm like, to me, I'm like, I also invest in coaching programs, and I invest in mentors and people telling me, hey, maybe you should try out these strategies and whatnot. I just find it's the fastest way moving forward. And sometimes I'll get told something and I'm very quick to implement, right? I'm like, I don't know whether this works or not, but I'm implementing. I'm going with it. And if it works, yes. If it doesn't, no. If it does work, I'll continue to use it. So I have found that to be a very successful method for me, because a lot of times what a lot of people want to do, and this is, I don't know if you're familiar with Jeff Walker, yeah. So soft launch, right? He launches products and basically he'll do a trial, but he'll soft launch before he does an official launch. And he already has the product working. He'll get testimonials. He'll get people that are already loving the product. And then he'll say, boom, here's the product, everybody. So I think that that's kind of the same way as you're mentioning it, right? People love you as a person. People love you as what you're doing. So you're technically the product. And you're also saying, hey, I also sell this, buy this from me. And that's huge influencer market at the end of the day. Influencers start businesses because people like them. People are going to buy from them. It's like back then in your guys' Stone Age, right? I think they had movies, whatnot. And, you know, but when they had movies, you know, it was movie stars were a big thing, right? If a movie star drove a car, did something, everybody wanted it, right? My dad, every time he sees, I forgot what movie it is, but it's the Trans Am, right? That, it's in one of an older movie or whatnot. I forgot. Every time he sees it, he's like, man, when I saw him driving that car, I wanted it and I bought it.
He's talking about Burt Reynolds, dude.
Smokey and the Bandit.
Yes, there we go. Smokey and the Bandit. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yes. So every time he told me about Smokey and the Bandit, it was watching. He's like, I wanted it and I bought it because of Burt Reynolds. So,
yeah,
Julie, I got to agree with you. And one of the things that I commend Roy about is that even though we're in such different spaces of age, evidently, he has one of the biggest things that he does is he always asks for my opinion. And if he thinks it's a group decision, he will go out into the office here. We don't have a lot of people here, but the 3, 4, 5 guys and girls sometimes that are here, right? He'll come out and it's like an open floor discussion. It's like, hey, we're thinking of moving in this direction. We're having these types of conversations. And I think at that point, everybody feels included to want to make that push. And I laugh because there's a trend on TikTok going around and it's one of my favorite trends, but it's like somebody will like take a video and it's like, oh, you're tired today? Well, that's not going to increase shareholder value. So get up and start moving. So, but it's a joke, but in this sense, right, when you're including your Gen Z, when you're including us in conversations and discussions, it does make us want to increase, you know, what our quote unquote shareholder value, right?
Yeah.
Even though they're just employees. So I got to agree, man. I think it's really big.
It goes back to what you said, that we're creative by nature and it gives people the feeling of creativity. Really, you are an anomaly. I mean, honestly, I've been in the mortgage industry 20 years. Very few people like you, you know, where you don't live by your title, you live by your humanness. You're a human person and you interact on a human level, not from I own a company, which a lot of people who actually work for companies act like they own it in the negative sense. You know, I'm talking about the leaders, the people that are directors or EVPs or VPs. They come across like they're the ones that have the authority. And to Joel's point, authority is one of the things that pushes people away. If I feel like you're pushing on my neck, I'm not going to give you 100%. So I want to feel like I have some autonomy. I have some creativity. I can throw some ideas out and I'm not going to be looked at and ridiculed or give the side eye. And you might say that might work. And to your point, Joel, you know, what the Gen Z does is they look for the fastest way to the end destination. So a lot of the training programs you might even have one of my training programs. I have one on PLR, which is really a place where you can white label. I have a training product that's a white label product and people buy it and then they put their own name on it. And I'm totally okay with that. And that's what a lot of people see now. And if you look at LinkedIn, you're going to see a lot of new people coming on there. Dan Coe and all these different people that are starting to market themselves because they see the opportunity to work with people in my age bracket and Joel and Roy's age bracket that might see this as an app that they can use for their business or product they can use, when it really is just a cut and paste, like an affiliate marketing kind of program. It's the same. This whole thing has repeated itself the way it used to be in the 80s. We've gone back to affiliate marketing in a weird sort of way. So there's a lot of things going on in the market that Gen Z is taking advantage of. And we just need to be, I think we need to be aware of it. And so we can look at that and do it ourselves.
Yeah. And I want to say something too, that's going to kind of, two things, right? So Julian, I'm very heavily involved within my church, and within my church, I lead a young men's group, mostly of Gen Zers or late millennials, right? And one of the things that I love is that anytime that we're going to plan an event or whatnot, it's a collective group think. It's not like, hey, we're going to go do this. No, it's like, hey, what would we think? Hey, this person likes basketball, this person doesn't. Obviously, you're not going to be able to cater to everybody, but you make that group decision, and even the person that doesn't like basketball or doesn't like the activity will still go and enjoy because you included them in that activity and everybody came to that groupthink decision together.
Yeah.
You know? And the other thing that I was going to say is that there's, with the type of, I was actually on the coaching call today for a sales call. His name is Matt Easton. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's a huge sales coach. And the way that he teaches sales, I love it because it's not pressuring. You're not telling anybody or being authoritative, saying you got to buy this product and you're not going to have it, right? It's about, hey, asking the right questions that lead the person that still make the buyer, the end buyer, in charge of that final decision. So it's like, Roy, everything that I've explained to you, you want to do this. Does this make sense for you to move forward? Yeah. Okay. Well, then great. If it doesn't, what's the next step for you then? What does make sense? And you lead yourself to that purchase decision. And that's the new sales strategy, but leadership strategy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
That's a great point. Go ahead, Roy. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that's a big difference the way sales has been trained since the 80s, right? So I love that. And to your point, I teach sales from a whole different perspective. Getting people to talk more versus you talking is the number one thing, and getting them to lean in what they like about what you're saying versus what you don't like. Not trying to find the holes. You think you're trying to find needs, but what they're telling themselves when they tell you what's missing is that you don't have what I need. So the goal is to have people talk to you about what they like about what you're offering, because people like to hear themselves talk over anything else. And so understanding that psychology is key. So to your point, Joel, getting people to talk is one of the best things. And I think from a leadership perspective, like you just said about Roy, asking people, what do you think about this direction we're going into, is helping get buy-in. For instance, just from the mortgage industry, I know a lot of people push back into the office. And I say push because so many leaders didn't ask anybody who wants to come back first before they took that head count. They just said, you're coming back. Now, people are coming back because they need a paycheck. But I promise you, there's a lot of people that have animosity. And if they could find another job right now, they would leave, which means they're giving half-ass their service to a company that is saying, we have a great staff. And they're looking at it going, yeah. But they don't care. They've lost their buy-in because they feel no one's listening to what I'm feeling. Now I got to pay for cleaning. Now I got to pay for gas. Now I got to find somebody to watch my kid. I got to figure out who's going to walk the dog in the middle of the day. I mean, all these other dramas that come with that are just literally forgotten because the leader says, you got to come in. And ironically, Roy, what's just funny, I would say about 70% of those leaders never come in themselves. So it's just
100%.
Yeah.
100%. You know, it's funny. Leaders across the U.S. and maybe across the globe, they can all push the whole come to work, come into the office. We need people in the office. You know, we're renting this space. We're you'd be paying that rent no matter what. Whether people were there or not, you'd be paying that rent. Keeping your teams happy and letting them, be able to produce a widget, a product, complete whatever they're working on from a space that makes them feel, appreciated and able to complete their tasks without, hindrance, meaning that they don't have to worry about gas. They don't have to worry about a dog walker or a babysitter or anything else. It's something that, they kind of forego because maybe they're on the road all the time. So they think, well, you should be in the office because I'm on the road all the time. But they don't understand or see that you on the road all the time looks more like you're on vacation than it looks like you're actually working, right? So it's not a plus. Yeah, I get it. You have to go and do things. You have to show up and be places to see what the next technology is, understand what, your competitors are doing. I get that. But that's not what people see. People see this guy's on a plane hanging out somewhere doing whatever. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here busting my ass,
What's that new thing they say?
I saw it. Actually, I coached a leader right during COVID because his team was really upset. And I said, you need to empathize with them. You need to understand they're working at home. Their bedroom is their office now. So they have no separation between work and home. So you got to understand the stress level is different. So he says, okay, I'm going to have a meeting with everybody and let them know I'm working from home too. I didn't go any further than that, but I think I might have told you, Roy. And he sat with his backdrop showing his golf course behind him and his huge backyard with a pool saying, hey guys, I'm working from home too. I know how you're feeling. And I'm like, just did exactly the opposite because they're looking at his backyard and his house going, well, I got my bed right here. So yeah, it's.
I completely get that. And it is, there's two things to think about right there, right? Joel just happened to say or make a comment. He goes, what's that new thing? Perception is reality. Man, I feel really old that he said, what's that new thing before he said that phrase. Man, I actually don't even know how I feel right now because he said it's a new thing. But, we've both known what that notion was. Perception is reality, right? It's somebody else's viewpoint of what you look like you're doing. And that's what they believe, right? And it's been around since, the Stone Ages. But, on top of that, the Zoom call you mentioned just now, that is part of the reason that I always have Doctor Strange's lair from the Marvel Comics universe in my background. Why? Because if there was a golf course in my background while everybody else is busting their ass working at their station at home or working at an office, and that's what they see, again, it goes back to, you don't understand me. You don't see what my reality is. And why am I going to listen to you?
Yeah.
Right. And so it's important that people get a grasp of what that truly is and understand that. So yeah, it's great that you bring that up. It's a reality across.
I'll ask if anybody watching this and they're a leader and they have a team, even right now, if you would just text one of your team members and say something like, hey, I haven't talked to you in a while. I was just thinking about how much you've done for us. I just want to thank you. Just thanks. I mean, I know you got other things going on in your life, but I want to just thank you for the time you put and effort you put into doing your job. Thank you for helping us. Just saying that alone, just an ad hoc, no agenda, nothing. You will get a tearful response of joy from that person thanking you, because that's what people want more than anything, is to be recognized for the efforts you don't see. You don't see how they had to stay up all night with their kid or in an argument with their spouse and then got up at 6 and got to the office and did their job at 8. You don't see those little things, but they want you to know, but they can't tell you those things. So you have to assume everybody has some drama in their life that they have to snuff down to get the job done, because that's what professionals do. But if you were to recognize it, it would leapfrog the energy to do it even greater. And that's what leaders need to remember, especially today when they're being bombarded with how life should be easy. You can make $1 million by just creating a faceless Instagram account, so they're not doing that and thinking I'm missing out. So if you can do that, it shifts the paradigm and gives you a better environment for your employees. And it might even bleed off into your customers, because they're going to pick it up as well. So I think it's something that leaders don't think about. They think very logical, very tangible, and very linear, like this is what we need to do, but they forget those little soft skills that really make the difference. And frankly, Covey did a great study showing that 80% of leaders get promoted because of their industry knowledge and abilities in the industry, but they have 80% of those people have no people skills. So they don't know how to manage people. They just know the business. And that is a missing link. And that's what's hitting against the wall with Gen Z, is because Gen Z doesn't have empathy per se. They didn't grow that empathy skill, but they desire to be recognized. When they hit a home run or they play a video game and they get to the next level, they get a big bing, bing, they get that big star thing in that next level. But if you don't recognize the next level for them, then it's like, I'll just throw this video game away and go to the new one. So that's the key.
That's right. That's actually really good. That's a really good way to provide that analogy. If I'm not getting, it's like, I guess my video games are very different, but like when I played Contra on Nintendo and I got to that.
You played Pong.
Yeah, I played Pong, but I'm going to use Contra as the analogy here. But when I got to the end of the board or end of the screen, and the little flashing light came up, it was like, I won. I'm on to the next level. I'm on to the next thing. And that's something you don't see a lot of. But to put it into work perspective, yeah, saying thank you, so important. And, Joel knows I do a call out to everybody that is in our sphere of working at More once a week, whether it's just to say hello or just because maybe they need something. If they call me first, then maybe I won't call them that week, but I try to get everybody every week, right? Just for 2 seconds. And because I truly believe in that thank you or that shaking a hand or whatever it is, to not only let somebody know that we know you're there, but to say, yeah, you're doing a good job. And when we were coming up, it was more of a joke, right? What do you need, an attaboy? Right? Like that was a thing. Oh, hey, attaboy, right? Like
Exactly.
That's great, but that's what I grew up in the industry knowing, like, hey, here's an attaboy. Yeah. And, imagine that was what you said to somebody today. First of all, half my team wouldn't even know what that meant. But, at the same time, distinguishing what thank you is versus attaboy is
So I showed you that. I don't know if you saw that recording I did on LinkedIn where I showed what the military is doing to get people to do more in boot camp. I don't know if you saw that, but same thing. They shifted their approach in boot camp recognizing people's efforts versus yelling at them about how they suck while they're doing it. And they found that the people were exponentially doing much greater the next day than they were prior to them, because the mind has shifted. The way we see our perception is different now because of the environment in which we live. We live in a whole different environment where my feelings matter more than reality. So more than ever before, our feelings are the number one thing. And we're not taking responsibility to why we have the feelings. We just need people to react to our feelings. And so that's the missing link in this whole thing. But you can use it to your advantage in a positive way, not in a negative, by recognizing people want to feel recognized. People want to know that you see the efforts they put forward. It's an easy thing. It's something that I wish people just did. And even a good thing, if people are listening and they have a one-on-one with their team or one of their employees, the best thing to do is to literally jump script and be like, you know what, forget about business. How are you? Let's just have a conversation about you. I don't know what's going on. We can get to business another time. It's not going anywhere, but I want to know, how are you doing? And if people were to do that, it will first shock the system, create a discomfort. And if they don't open up, then say, well, let me tell you how I'm doing and be very transparent about what you're struggling with. Don't be the person that's perfect. Be the person that's broken, because people lean towards people that are like them. So if you could be more visibly, whatever it might be, whatever you're struggling with, maybe it could be a toenail, it could be a drama, a family kid, a kid issue, whatever, just share that. All of a sudden they're like, wow, okay, and let me tell you what I'm struggling with. And now there's a connection and they feel more affinity towards you, and there's reciprocity in that. So it's really something to think about from a leader perspective in our generation. No more that a boy.
You know what? That's so funny. So I'm going to say this last thing before we get into where people can find you and then close out the show today. But it's so funny you said that. You know, when Joel and I first got together here and decided, hey, let's continue down the path of building more, because, you know, there was a point in time about 2.5 years ago where we weren't sure if this thing was going to stay. The original people who founded the company disappeared, got out of the business, went to go do old things that they used to do. And, you know, we kind of looked at each other and we said, you know what, there's a plan here to be had. And we executed that. But one of the first things I said to Joel was, listen, man, we don't do, familial culture here at the office. This is a team environment. We build the team on purpose, right? So you can empathize with your team members. You can, root for your team members. You can coach your team members. You can cut a team member if you need to. There are all those things that the team atmosphere really bodes well for. And the reason I bring it up is, I had an employer in the past who preached about the familial culture of the organization. And I drank the Kool-Aid, man. I drank the Kool-Aid, and finally I got to that comfort level where I was like, all right, I'm in this whole, whatever it is, and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. And the moment a personal question got asked between my boss and I, my boss turns around and uses that exact comment to go to HR and say, hey, something might be wrong with Roy because he said this. And I'm like, you asked me to be vulnerable and part of the family and blah, blah, blah. And the moment I finally do it, that's what happens. And let alone the terrible HR person came and told me about it afterwards. I'm like, wait, are you telling me that my boss told you about that? What?
Yeah.
What? All right.
Yeah.
Mind blowing. So we are very far away from that model. We don't preach it here. We don't believe in it here. We don't push it here, and we'll never have it here. But we do have one of the best teams in the industry, and it's because we push that model. I mean, as you've probably seen over the last 5 or 10 years, familial models have become what a lot of people call toxic environments. And so we're staying away from that.
I'm glad you are. I think that's an amazing thing you're doing. My biggest thing is just getting businesses, not just mortgage, but businesses to get out of the model focus and focus on what's really right in front of you. You have so many meetings about the same thing, and we have the same ways of doing things, and they're not moving anything. And you lose people and you gain people. The way, if you do the exit interview, you'll find it's usually because of the leadership, because the leadership's not really listening. They implement new things without taking away something that's already there. So they stack on new things, having to keep the same things already stacked. not thinking that how that impacts the people on a daily basis. It could just be an extra scroll down and a click. But if you do that 40 times a day, how much time does that take from another person's process? And then you're going to add another one, and then nothing stays. It's like we do something and we change it before we even vet it completely. And that's what industry does all the time. And we assume if we train people, they know it. And like, you can't retain anything you learn in 1 hour sitting, but no one really gives you the freedom to say, I don't know it. Well, we gave you the training. So now I feel stupid. So now I'm going to shut down and not tell you I don't know it. And now I have to spend all this energy hiding what I don't know. So, and they call that production, right? So this is what Gen Z doesn't do. It's like, I want you to act stupid because we all are. We're just learning and we're having fun. And that is a key to business now. And I hope people hear that, because leaders are just employees, most of them. They get a paycheck just like the front line or just like the receptionist. It's understanding everybody's their own entrepreneur, and they need to be free to say, this is what I'm good at. Here's my superpower. Here's what I'm weak at. Who has that strength? Not like we used to do in your time, Roy, and my time. Remember the performance reviews?
Yeah.
Here's what you're good at, but here's what I need you to work on. The weakest part of you, I want you to spend all your energy on.
Yeah.
That is completely gone now. That is the oxymoron. Don't focus on what you're good at and bring that to the business. Focus on what you suck at and build that up. It's like, well, but I'm good at this. Can't I just do that? It's crazy. So yeah.
Right. Julian, thank you so much for today, man. We really appreciate your insight. We really appreciate everything that you talked about today. It's so relevant in our workforce today and in everything that we interact with and the people we interact with. Gen Z being the biggest home buying population, it's important to know for the people that are watching that, we understand where you're coming from. He understands where you're coming from, and he tells me how to understand where you're coming from. But thanks a lot again, Julian. We appreciate your time. If you wouldn't mind, tell everybody that's watching how they can find you and, how do they get in touch with you if they want to?
Just juliansato.com, or, you can find me on LinkedIn, Julian Sato. That's the best way. I'm still old school LinkedIn guy. I have Instagram too, but I don't play with it as much, but juliansato.com is the best way.
Awesome. Well, that's it, man. Thanks again. Episode 17.
Well, I'll see you soon. I'll be in Florida. I'll be in Florida soon. I'll look you up, okay?
Oh yeah, definitely come by.
Man.